Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 diesel, but it's not a diesel this time, it's the V6. Everybody wanted a V6 video, but we don't see many V6s, but we're here to do an inspection. We're going to point out a few of the usual things to look at, but you're not going to see much on this one because it's only done about 60,000 Ks. What's it done?
64, 65?
65,000 Ks. What year is it again?
2012.
2012, have a look at that. 9 years old, 60,000 Ks. And, it, you know, probably wondering, is that genuine or not? So from what I'm seeing so far, I say absolutely. Look how clean it is. Anyway, sit tight. We can talk about the stuff on the V6s and the problems that come up as they get a bit older, and maybe even possibilities with this one. But I've just noticed a couple of modifications. The antenna bracket, got the K-on antenna bracket there, and a lot of people ask the question: does it hit when you open the bonnet? Well, of course not. Otherwise, K-on would change the design so it doesn't hit. So it's got plenty of clearance to the windscreen. You can open the bonnet without any issue there. What made you decide to get that one on there?
Might have been one of your videos, actually.
There you go. Now, I reckon it's pretty good anyway, and at least it doesn't vibrate around like the bull bar. It's a great idea.
It's a great spot.
And you've got the ARB compressor here, so it's pretty popular, that compressor. Oh, and it's on the K-on bracket as well.
Indeed.
What made you decide to go for that compressor and that bracket?
Watching a few of your videos.
Okay, cool. So it's not installed. It's a work in progress. It's not fully installed.
So it's not wired up. It's just.
So there's a few things. You're doing it all yourself, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Guys, if you need a compressor bracket like that, kon.com.au, and that aerial bracket over there is pretty good. So you're not planning to put a bull bar on, is that right?
No, keep it nice and light.
Yeah. Why is that?
Handling from your videos,
Yeah,
perhaps, and
they do
other
drive
research
better, yeah.
and folks I've been talking to.
Each to their own, obviously. It all depends exactly what you're doing. You've got to make your choice, but it's not an automatic, you've got to have a bull bar type thing. Well, this looks really clean up here. Sometimes what can happen with these, so there's a lot of pulleys on the front there. I think from memory there's about 4. See the one in the middle of the picture, there's one below it also. There's a couple over this side as well. Oh, there's one, there you go. See my memory, 3. So there's one at this side. Oh, probably some other models could be different as well. But anyway, there's 3 that we can see here. Sometimes those bearings can play up. The V6 obviously pulls more revs than the diesel, so of course it's like it's done twice as much, twice as much work in the same amount of time. And I think in the mud and the water, and maybe they're a bit lower, or for whatever reason, maybe it's a bit more open the way the fan is, might throw more mud and water in there, and they tend to get noisy, and the drive belts can get noisy and dry as well. So I'd probably recommend replacing those about every 150,000 Ks, which is still a long way away for you at this stage. Oil changes are imperative on these V6s. The fuel contaminates the oil, and that's what causes oil leaks. So oil changes every 5,000 Ks, just like the diesel, to avoid leaks at the valve cover, what we're looking at. There can be leaks at the front here on the timing, there can be rear main seals, there can be all sorts of oil leaks. So, and of course the blocked oil pickup from lack of oil changes. So just make sure you do the 5,000 K oil changes, and that'll keep you out of trouble. We noticed the usual battery terminal problem. You can see it's not even tight against itself at the top, that spacing there, but often they are, but because it's up above the top of the terminal, which is tapered, it's not tight. See at the bottom there, it needs to be all the way to the bottom. So that needs to be loosened off, moved to the bottom, and re-tightened up. One of the biggest causes of vehicles, breaking down or having issues like that: loose battery terminals, dirty battery terminals, and bad earths. The vehicle looks in very good condition. If I looked at this and you didn't tell me what year it was, I'd go, it's about 3 years old. So pretty good, huh? But I think what we'll do is, we can't see a lot of other stuff under here. What else can we talk about up here that we see? Everybody knows how to change an air filter by now. This car, that car, that's not too hard. You got your MAF sensor there, same deal. If you're out in dust, you need to clean that. Spark plugs, obviously. You get some of this stuff out of the way. They're down under the coils there, coil per cylinder. Middle of the picture, that is the thing with the plug on it, right? So down in there is where the spark plugs are. This is bone dry. I can't even think of any issues you're going to have with this. This is awesome. Let's get it up on the horse and have a look around and see what we can find under there. Okay, here we are. Let's have a bit of a look underneath. So this car, we're in Victoria. This vehicle was purchased from that other country of Australia, WA they call it. Used to be called Western Australia, now it's called WA. Yeah, it was purchased from over there, and what did the previous owner say? It hasn't been on the beach or something like that? No beach work, or a little bit, or yeah. no beach work? Okay, cool. So it was a private sale, okay, in COVID, so you got to pay. A little bit of excess grease coming out of ball joints. You can see up at that upper ball joint. A little bit around the lower. Look, someone's been lubing a lot of this bump stop here. In my opinion, you don't need to lube those because all they do is attract dirt, dust and whatever. So personally, I just clean that off. When you turn full lock, you shouldn't be holding it full lock. It's not the best thing for your steering rack anyway. So some vehicles you need to lube it because it was quite noisy, but these aren't. So I don't worry about a little bit of sweat around the tire. Look at the vehicles. What was it? 2010? 12. You know, it's 9 years old, whatever. So you're going to see that. We do see that. So not worried about that. All the CV boots, everything looks okay. It's got original suspension. That's something that probably needs to be looking at getting replaced, even though it hasn't done the Ks, just due to the age, and it's getting close. Suspension specialists do say every 80,000 Ks, which is probably not going to happen in a lot of cases. We do see a little bit of surface rust around, so I'll say that it's been on beaches a little bit. You can see someone's trying to get that bolt out, and it's snapped off. It's just obviously seized in there from the rust. You get that a bit, so when the bolts come out on this one, you get them out and obviously then spray the hole with a bit of lube like inox and then put a bit of grease on the bolts type thing. Same story over this side. It's a mirror reflection of what's going on over there, and you can see the bits of sand in the grease. There is a little bit of sand around, like if you have a look up there. So it's definitely been on the beach, just not a lot, you know. It hasn't done a lot of beach work. So a little bit of surface, you can see the surface rust. Again, spraying some whatever product you like. Probably best talk to an expert about what's the best one, but things like inox help neutralize it. So spraying that, bit of cleaning, a little bit of touch-up paint just helps protect that. Again, you can just see a little bit there. It's not bad, but you may as well get to it for do a bit of protection before it gets any worse. Salt spray, salt air does these things. You can see it. It's not bad, but it's throughout the vehicle. We've had a quick look around. The lower control arm bushes, just like the diesels, same story. These ones are like new. They're not even twisted. They're in really good condition. That says, you know, it hasn't been bounced around over speed humps and, you know, over sand dunes and all that. So there's been plenty of lube going into the drive shaft. Let's have a look at that compared to some of the ones you've seen in other videos. I'd rather see, this is kind of perfect really, because I'd rather see that splatter up there a little bit and that nice and wet and lubed than it being dry or too much mess everywhere. This is not an oil leak down here. Again, once again, it's just the grease, the excess grease. So it has been lubed and serviced and that sort of thing, which is good. So all those joints will be in as good as new condition. No oil leak here, right? Got a water leak here. What's this water here? That's the aircon, don't worry about that. Brake pads still look original. We already had a look at those. We said the rear's probably on schedule to get replaced at about 100,000. And the fronts usually last a little bit longer. They're about 50% worn, maybe less. Right, transmission, the A750F bone dry, original. It's got the original gasket in there still, which is good. You could probably do a transmission flush sooner or later, but certainly not urgent at 60,000. But with the age of it, probably worth doing. What else we got in here? Same old fuel tank. Slightly different exhaust, but similar, very clean. Let's just have. We did do a bit of a demonstration spraying a bit of CRC just to demonstrate, you know, up there a bit of surface rust in some hidden places and stuff like that. Right, see this stuff, and I was just showing, you know, we don't need to drench it, but just a bit of sprays, a bit of protection, a bit of cleaning, maybe a bit of a wire brush to clean it up, and a bit of touch-up paint sort of thing, you know. So that was just a bit of a demonstration on the back of the wheel bearings there. So that's me, don't worry about that. So if you have got that surface rust, that's what you want to do. Now, a little bit more information, because people want to go, the V6 video, what about the V6? Now, on the 120s, this fuel filler hose that goes into the back of the forward tank, everybody should replace it by now, because they're all old, so they should all be replaced, okay? We've got videos on that. Just search our other videos. Put fuel tank, fuel, minimal words gets more results. So fuel filler hose or something like that. We've never replaced one on a 150, petrol or diesel. Now we know this is 9 years old. It's a petrol. It's had petrol in it for 9 years. So we're going to check the condition of it, okay? See that? Still soft, okay? So I would assume or guesstimate that Toyota maybe changed the material and made it better and more petrol proof. It might last forever, it might not. Generally these aren't a problem in vehicles, but it is a problem in the 120s, particularly on the petrol, because they do split open, and petrol's a lot more dangerous than diesel. Diesels, they go a little bit hard, and they start off leaking very slowly like a sweat, and obviously it can get worse. So if you've got a 120, replace that hose. Search our channel for the part number. It'll be in a video. It'll show you how to change it. Maybe search replacing the rear fuel filler hose. But on the 150s at this stage, it's don't touch them. They're all good. We'll let you know if anything changes. We haven't ever seen one leaking or had to replace one. What else we got here? There's just actually nothing to see. You can see the sand. You can see the evidence of the sand though. So it's definitely been on the beach a little bit, but not a lot. I'd say it's done a couple of minor beach strip type thing, but you know, nothing else. So underneath here again, a bit of spray just to help neutralise that rust, you know, spray this, spray that. WD-40, RP7, CRC, inox, lanolin, fish oil type products, anything like that. And then after letting it soak for a while, maybe even a week, give it a good clean up and then get under there with your touch-up paint. You could even, I was just saying, you know, using a few bits of cardboard and some rags to protect overspray onto other areas. But guys, there's nothing to see here. It is a bit of a low K one on the V6. What else have we got? So like I said, rear main, if you've got an oil leak coming out down around there, you could have a rear main leak. Keep the oil changes up to them. If you've got problem with the fuel gauges, the petrol does affect every component, including in these tanks, is your sender units. So both this tank and the rear tank have got a sender unit. If your fuel gauge isn't reading correctly, particularly on the older 120s, it may need dropping both tanks and replacing those sender units that can get quite expensive. So keep that in mind. Doesn't happen in the diesels. It's something that happens with the petrols. What else have we got for your V6 video? I don't know. Let me have a think about it. I'll come back to you if I think of anything else. All right, yeah, so we couldn't really find much else, so it's a pretty boring video. But a little bonus if you hung around to the end. You may not be aware of this, but if you come into the Prado hospital for an inspection like this, you can then join the VIP group, okay? So if you have been in for an inspection, you just need to join that Facebook group answering the 3 questions. Obviously, only for clients. So that's one little bonus. The other thing I wanted to mention was no more vehicle inspections. We are on annual leave until the 12th of July. So contact me Monday morning, 12th of July from 8 AM in a text message. We're going to get bombarded with messages for inspections, injector replacement. People want to buy injector kits, front wheel bearing kits, BFE kits, Dobinson suspension kits. So please be patient, and you're not hassling me by reminding me every 2 hours on a Monday. So if you text me at 8 and you don't get something back by 10 or 12 or 2 or 4, and that's the cut off 4 o'clock, that just means I got absolutely smashed, and I'll chase you up probably Tuesday. You're definitely going to get a response unless you slip through for whatever reason. So don't think you're hassling me by reminding me. Just don't text me every 5 minutes. You know, a couple of hours later, if you haven't, look, and stay on the pages, the Prado Hospital, our 2 pages, because that tells you when we're around. There's no point texting me on a Monday we're on annual leave, because we could have no phone service. It could be anywhere. It could be in where would I be? I wouldn't be in Wuhan in China, that's for sure. But anyway, whatever. But look, guys, if you hopefully you got something of this. The usual maintenance applies. The car's the same. You need to, as prevention, if you're travelling outback trips and that, we recommend the front wheel bearings about every 200,000 Ks on the Prados. You know, the BFE every 150,000 Ks. We don't have a BFE kit for this engine because we supply the bearing in the pulley on the diesel, and I've still got someone on the job, and we're struggling to source the bearings in those idlers. Now you can buy the idlers yourself as we would from Toyota. We might buy them a little bit cheaper, but for every 150,000 Ks it's not a big deal at this stage. So stay tuned, subscribe, turn the bell on in case at a later date we get these bearings. Then we'll have a kit with the belt, the bearings and whatever, so that it's cheaper. And of course the water pumps. So every 150,000 Ks, go in and do the water pump, the belt, the bearings, all that sort of thing. These don't have a timing belt, there's a chain in there. Doesn't mean you're never going to have problems, but they are very reliable with the timing chain. You don't have to worry about that. The problem with these is mainly the oil leaks. So I've told you, I'm going to say it again, keep the oil changes up to it. We're out of here. I hope you liked your V6 video. When we find one that's older, when an older one comes in, we can show you the problems. But I think we've got a couple other V6 videos, and at least one of them we had a car at I think 300,000 Ks, and I was amazed how bone dry the engine was. Another quick one, it's really important that you keep the coolant changes regular as well once the vehicle gets older like this. Once a vehicle's past the 6 or 8 years old, I highly recommend using the genuine Toyota coolant every 2 years, because you never get it all out. I don't want you to flush it. You may introduce some bad water into the system. Just drop it. On the V6, if I remember correctly, there's 2 block plugs. On the diesel, there's 1. So you just take the plugs out, let it drain, and then pour the new coolant in, of course, after you put the plugs back in. Because it's an all alloy engine, as you can see, and you get corrosion if the coolant has got mixes or it's not good, and it can ride off the block. You got a permanent sort of coolant leak then. So just beware of that. Keep it clean. It's the lifeblood of your cooling system, your radiator, your heater cores, your Welsh plugs. We don't see Welsh plug problems on this engine or the diesels. Just keep the coolant to them. It's preventative maintenance. Anyway, I've talked long enough. That's it. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, turn the bell on. We're back on deck from the 12th of July. Please don't try and bother us till then. I apologise in advance. Bada bing, we've got to take annual leave. Bada boom. See ya.